A loud crash echoed through the tiny apartment as Marina Cole dropped the glass of water she'd been holding. It hit the floor and shattered, but she didn't even look down. Her entire body went rigid, her breath trapped in her chest, her fingers trembling violently as she stared at the glowing numbers on her cracked phone screen. 48 million, she whispered, as if saying the amount out loud might make the universe take it back. She blinked rapidly. The numbers didn't change. They didn't disappear. They didn't rearrange into something sensible like always. They were hers, her numbers, her win. A hysterical laugh burst from her throat, sharp and breathless, almost a sob. She covered her mouth with both hands as her knees buckled, and she slid down the cabinet until she was sitting on the kitchen floor, surrounded by broken glass. Her heart was pounding, her hands shaking, and her entire body felt like it had been unplugged from reality. She had just become a millionaire, a multimillionaire. And in that instant, before joy, before fear, before shock could fully settle, one thought slammed through her mind with absolute clarity. She wasn't telling anyone, not one soul. Not her mother, who always asked for a little something to get through the month. Not her stepfather, who treated her like a financial punching bag disguised as a lecture. Not her sister, who lived like a queen and never lifted a finger to help anyone. Not her brother, who had turned borrowing money into an Olympic sport. No one. God, she whispered, shaking her head as she stood. If they knew, they'd drain me dry. Her phone buzzed with a notification, making her jump so hard she nearly screamed. She exhaled, pressing a trembling hand to her chest. It was only a reminder for her early shift the next morning. She let out a shaky laugh. She had been excited last week about a $5 discount coupon. Now she had $48 million. She backed away from the shards on the floor, leaning heavily on the counter while her mind spun like a cyclone. She should call someone Harper maybe, but even the thought made her stomach twist. If she told anyone, even her best friend, the secret would eventually slip. It always did. She forced herself to breathe, long and slow, until her heartbeat steadied. Okay, Marina. Think. She grabbed her laptop, sat at the table, and typed. What to do when you win the lottery. Within seconds, she was scrolling through horror stories, families torn apart, friends suing friends, winners murdered by relatives, victims of kidnappings, bankrupt millionaires begging for help. Dozens of tragedies, all caused by one common mistake. Telling the wrong people. Telling anyone, she corrected under her breath. Her phone buzzed again. A message from her mother. Ruth. Hey, sweetie. Did you pay that credit card bill? Don't forget, it's due today. Marina stared at the message, her jaw tightening. Even now, in the middle of the night, her mother was thinking about a bill Marina had already covered for both of them. She locked her phone without responding. By 3 a.m., she had read enough to know she wasn't stepping foot outside without legal protection. At 8 a.m., she called in sick, her voice shaking as she told her boss she had a fever. He sighed loudly, annoyed, telling her they were already behind on the quarterly audit. She hung up without replying. Let him be annoyed. Soon she wouldn't have to listen to him take credit for her work ever again. By 10 a.m., she was sitting stiffly in a leather chair in the office of Victor Hale, a grey-haired attorney known for handling high-stakes financial cases. She clutched her purse to her chest, like someone might rip it away. Victor adjusted his glasses as he examined the lottery ticket she'd handed him. Miss Cole, this is legitimate. I know, she whispered. I triple-checked, then triple-checked again. And you want to remain anonymous? I want to disappear, she corrected. At least from people who want to drain me. He nodded calmly, as though this request was far more common than she realized. You have two options: claim publicly or set up a blind trust. I recommend the second. Yes, she said instantly. Blind trust. Invisible trust. Whatever hides me the most. Victor smiled faintly. You're making the right choice. I've seen what happens when people announce these things. Her stomach twisted. Yeah, so have I. The next 2 hours were a blur of signatures, legal jargon, and explanations about taxes, investments, and asset protection. Marina clung to every word, like they were lifelines. When she left the office, the city looked the same. Cars honking, people rushing, sunlight bright on the pavement, but she wasn't the same. Every step she took felt surreal, like her feet were moving for someone else. She had $48 million, and no one knew. That night, Harper came over with Thai takeout, talking about her crazy shift at the hospital, but Marina could barely focus. Her secret felt like fire pressed tight against her ribs. You okay? Harper asked, narrowing her eyes. You've been weirdly quiet. Marina forced a smile. Just tired, Harper snorted. Girl, you're always tired. This is different. I'm fine, Marina insisted, stabbing a dumpling with unnecessary force. Harper didn't believe her, not even a little, but she let it go. Later, when Harper left, Marina paced her apartment for nearly an hour. She'd expected excitement, relief, freedom, but what she felt instead was something hollow and sharp. She had money, more money than she could spend in a lifetime, but she had no idea whom she could trust. Her mother? No. Her stepfather? Never. Her sister? Absolutely not. Her brother? She laughed out loud at the thought. She sank onto the couch, covering her face with both hands. If I told any of them, they'd show up with stories, tears, guilt, trips, everything. A painful truth settled in her chest. She didn't know if anyone in her family cared about her, only what she could provide. That's when it hit her. A reckless, terrible, brilliant idea. She sat up sharply. What if I test them? She whispered. What if I pretend I need help? What if I see who actually cares? Her heart hammered faster. It was crazy. It was manipulative. It was exactly what she needed. She grabbed her notebook and scribbled out a story. Laid off. No severance. Behind on rent. Medical bills. Need $5,800. She could already predict most of their reactions, but she needed to see it. Needed to confirm it. Needed to know who deserved a place in the next chapter of her life, and who didn't. She practiced the story aloud until the words lost their sharp edges. Laid off. Company collapsed after an accounting scandal. No severance. Medical bills from a recent test. Rent overdue. Need $5,800 to get by for a few weeks. She hated lying with a clean heart, but she told herself this was an experiment, a painful one, yes, but necessary. She'd already paid the price of naivety once too often. Her first call was to her mother. Marina kept her voice small and raw, hiccuping once as if she might dissolve into tears at any moment. Hi, Mum. Something happened at work. They let half the office go. I don't know what I'm going to do. Ruth's voice softened. Oh, sweetie. Are you okay? Do you need me to come over? Mum. Marina swallowed. I'm okay. I'm trying to find something, but my emergency fund is gone after these tests. I need about $5,800 to cover rent and some bills. There was a pause, a sound of shuffling that made Marina's stomach drop. Cass, that's a lot, Ruth said finally. Honey, you know Joel and I just put a down payment on the lake place. We're stretched thin right now. Why don't you ask Elise? She has that new bonus this quarter, right? Marina's throat tightened. Okay, I'll call Dad. She hung up with hands that trembled on the receiver. It was exactly what she expected, and yet the sting cut nonetheless. Her father's response came in the form of a lecture. You should have had 6 months' expenses saved, Bennett told her, over coffee at a diner, his voice low and patronizing. Financial independence is planning, Marina. This is the sort of thing people— How about someone actually helping? She snapped, before she could stop herself, then immediately regretted it. He blinked, taken aback. I can't, Cassie. Camila and I are managing retirement accounts right now. It wouldn't be wise. She left the diner with a hollow pit in her stomach, and the practiced lie tasting like bile on her tongue. Each refusal stacked like bricks on a chest that was already bruised. She went to see Elise next. Elise opened her door in a silk robe, her house smelling faintly of eucalyptus and lemon cleaners. Cameras and art books lined the shelves. The kitchen gleamed. Hey, babe, Elise said, slipping an arm around her husband's neck as he emerged from the study. Marina delivered the script, the cracking voice, the desperation, and then watched as the shimmer left Elise's face like a curtain. Oh my God, Marina, I'm so sorry. Elise's eyes flicked to her husband, then to the calendar pinned with their vacation plans. We're between contractors right now, and the kids' tuition. Mark has just got that new grant for the clinic, and we're financially booked. I could have Anna cover a few nights if you need somewhere to stay, though. It wasn't a refusal exactly, but the offer of a couch felt like a slap. Help wrapped in hierarchy and obligation. Marina smiled gratefully, and left with the same unresolved ache. Her brother Clay's reply arrived as a late-night text. Damn, sis, that sucks. I'm gonna be tight till next month, yo. Call me later. When she called, he asked if she could spot him some money for his phone bill. He never asked if she was safe. He never offered more than a hollow commiseration. Cousin Braden promised to meet up and help, then ghosted. Aunt Vera critiqued Marina's purported poor planning and refused to be roped into family bailouts. Each refusal, each excuse, each distant sympathy felt like another proof of what she'd suspected. The pattern was obvious. Most of them treated need like an inconvenience, like something to be managed only if it didn't interfere with their comfort. The only person who didn't hem and haw was Aunt Miriam. Marina had almost left her for last because it felt dishonest to put the kindest relative through the lie. But she also knew Miriam would never ask a question for which she didn't already know the answer. So she walked to the small cafe near Miriam's apartment, nerves coiled tight enough to jump. Miriam wiped her hands on her apron and sat across from Marina, eyes soft and steady. She listened without interruption as Marina's practiced sobs spilled out. When Marina finished, tears streaking down her face, Miriam reached across the table and took her hand like she'd done when Marina was a child. Oh, Marina, Miriam said quietly. Bless your heart. Come sit with me tonight. You don't have to be alone. Marina blinked, expecting to be offered a couch and perhaps a dinner. But then Miriam reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. She slid it across the table without fanfare. Marina's hands trembled as she opened it. $3,200. That's most of my savings, Miriam said. But you can have it. And if you need anything else, you tell me. You don't have to be proud with me. Marina felt something break inside her, and then, unsteadily, something softer fold over the break like a bandage. She hadn't been prepared for this, not the size of the gift, and certainly not the lack of terms attached. Miriam's help came without expectation, without the ledger of favors, without the silent calculus that measured how much love one owed in return. Why? Marina asked, throat thick. Why would you? Because you're family, Miriam said simply. Because you called me. Because I remember when your father used to bring you here after soccer practice, And you'd eat all my cookies. I remember you, Marina. Not what you could do for the family. Not who you could be for everyone else. You. That's why. The words seared into Marina with a warmth she did not deserve and therefore needed all the more. That night, after Miriam left and Marina counted the bills with trembling hands, she did something she never would have done with anyone else. She told Miriam the truth. I didn't lose my job, she confessed, voice whisper thin in the dark of her kitchen. I lied, because I wanted to see who would help me without knowing I had money. She watched Miriam's face, for anger, for accusation, for any sign that they would be done. Miriam did not flinch. She sighed, a soft sound like wind through a well-loved book. You always do this to yourself, Marina, she said gently. You give and then you test people to justify your cynicism. But I'm glad you told me. Marina's breath came in a single shuddering rush. There's more, she said, the words tumbling out. I won the lottery 48 million. I've set it up so nobody knows. She watched Miriam's hand go to her mouth, the small gasp barely audible. Miriam's laugh was a trembling little thing that turned into a choked sob. Oh, Marina, she whispered. My heart. Then she was steady again. We'll do this the right way, but I won't be your charity case. Let's make sure I'm looked after. Yes, but let's do it so I don't have to think about money again. And you can tell me when you're ready who else should know. Marina exhaled, a long, jagged sound, a release of breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. She felt like someone had handed her a pair of shoes that fit for the first time in years. Relief came in tidal waves, relief tempered by shame, by awe, by the complicated gratitude of someone who had just watched a stranger become a guardian angel. By morning, a plan began to take shape. Set up a trust for Miriam, buy her a cozy home near the park, start the non-profit she'd only half dreamed about. But first, there was the family meeting. She would stage an announcement that would not be about money, but about boundaries. She wanted the world to know she was done being the family ATM. She wanted them to feel the consequences of their choices without the leverage of her wealth. Even in triumph, there was fear. She'd hurt people with the lie. She'd manipulated the ones who might have been capable of compassion. The guilt pinched, small and relentless. But the relief knowing Miriam's future was secured was a sun at the center of a winter sky. She folded the remaining cash into an envelope and slid it into her wallet. Then she sat back and let the quiet settle, a raw, fierce peace settling over her like armor. The experiment had begun. The truth, when it came, would change everything. Marina scheduled the family meeting for Sunday evening. She chose her small apartment, intentionally intimate enough that no one could hide behind distance, uncomfortable enough that no one could pretend this was just a casual visit. One by one, they arrived. Ruth in a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes, Joel already sighing as if preparing for a lecture, Elise sweeping in with her linen dress and curated pity, Marcus behind her, checking his watch, Clay half awake, smelling of weed and energy drink, Aunt Vera with a frown that could sharpen glass. Even Cousin Braden appeared, wearing guilt like a second skin. Only Miriam entered quietly, squeezing Marina's shoulder before taking a seat near the back. As Marina stood before them, she felt strangely calm. Her hands didn't shake, her voice didn't crack. Whether it was the truth she was ready to say, or the secret she was determined to keep, something inside her had finally settled. "Thank you all for coming," she began. "I know you're busy," Joel huffed loudly. "Let's not make this long. We were in the middle of dinner." Marina replied without looking at him. "I'll get straight to the point." She took a breath. "I asked each of you for help this week. Financial help, rent, bills, medical stuff. And every one of you except one said no. The room shifted with discomfort. No one spoke. Ruth sat up straighter. Honey, that's not fair. We explained we had commitments. You told me to ask someone else, Marina cut in. That's not commitment. That's dismissal. Ruth's mouth opened and then closed again. Elise folded her arms, her face cooling. You can't expect everyone to drop everything because you need money unexpectedly. I never said unexpectedly. I said I lost my job. And when I asked for help, you offered me your basement couch temporarily. Not once did you ask if I could feed myself, if I could pay the medical bills I mentioned, not even if I was okay. Elise's eyes flickered away. Clay looked offended. Why you gotta say it like that? I told you I was broke. You also asked me to loan you money, Marina said softly, while I was pretending to cry on the phone. Clay's cheeks flushed with anger. Aunt Vera sniffed. Some of us are tired of being expected to fix other people's mistakes. Marina smiled coldly. That's interesting. Since for years I've been the one fixing bills, emergencies, and sudden crises without complaint. I drained my savings helping people in this room more times than I can count. But when it was my turn, an experiment or not, you all made it clear I wasn't worth the inconvenience. Expressions hardened. Excuses formed on lips. But she didn't give them space to release them. You all made choices, she said. And I'm simply responding with my own. Ruth stood. Marina, we didn't know. If you'd said it was urgent, it wouldn't have mattered. Urgent or not, you always find reasons why I should give more and receive less. Joel's voice boomed. Is this why you called us here? To scold us like children? No, Marina said softly. I called you here to tell you things are changing. The room froze. I'm done being your backup plan. I'm done being your emergency fund, your emotional punching bag, your convenience. I'll be polite. I'll be civil. But the days of me carrying this family are over. Silence thickened like fog. Elise scoffed. You're being dramatic. For the first time, Marina replied. I'm being honest. Joel shook his head. This is immature. You're acting irrational. She's acting free, Miriam cut in quietly. All heads whipped toward her. Miriam's voice was calm, anchored in truth. And none of you like it because you've all gotten used to taking pieces of her without giving any back. Ruth's jaw dropped. Miriam, you have no right. I have every right, Miriam said, standing. Her voice shook, not from fear, but emotion. That girl has bent herself into knots for this family. She's paid your debts, covered your emergencies, supported your decisions, listened to your crises, all while carrying burdens none of you cared enough to ask about. The room pulsed with heat and humiliation. Miriam turned to Marina. You don't owe them anything. A quiet breath left Marina's chest, something she hadn't been able to release for years. When the family finally left, some offended, some muttering, some refusing to make eye contact, Marina closed the door gently behind them. Her apartment hummed in the silence left behind. That was brave, Miriam said softly. That was overdue, Marina replied. Over the next weeks, Marina moved swiftly. With Victor's help, she purchased a modest but beautiful home near a peaceful stretch of river. 3 streets away, Miriam's new cottage waited with easy access, a cozy porch swing, and a kitchen Miriam immediately claimed as her own. Marina officially resigned from her job. Her boss barely concealed his annoyance, but she walked out with a lightness she had never felt before. She set up the non-profit she dreamed about, Open Doors Society, focusing on helping seniors who lived alone and had no support. Harper joined soon after. her warmth transforming the program from functional to life-changing. Within a year, Marina's life looked nothing like it had before. Her days were meaningful. Her home felt peaceful. Her relationships were intentional. Her family, still around, still polite, still confused by her sudden confidence, but never again did they treat her like a lifeline to tug when convenient. What shocked her most was how easily they accepted her boundaries once they realized they couldn't break them. They thought she found success in non-profit leadership. None of them asked too many questions. They rarely had in the past, and she preferred it that way. But when real emergencies struck, Braden entering rehab, Bennett dealing with heart complications, Elise's daughter needing a therapy program insurance refused to cover, Marina found quiet ways to help. Anonymous hospital donations, anonymous sponsorships, anonymous grants. She didn't need the credit. She didn't want the gratitude. She only wanted to choose who she gave to, how she gave, and on what terms. One evening, as she and Miriam sat on Miriam's porch, watching the orange-purple sunset melt into the sky, Miriam nudged her gently. "You know," she said, "you could have announced it. You could have let them celebrate you, pretended they were proud, without ever knowing the truth." Marina smiled faintly. "They would have become people I didn't want around, and I'd never know who they were. The experiment, it hurt, but it told me everything." "And what did it tell you?" Miriam asked, though she already knew. "That love shouldn't come with receipts," Marina whispered, "or conditions. It should just be." She leaned back, letting the gentle breeze wash over her. Winning 48 million hadn't changed her. It revealed her, and it revealed them. As the last sliver of sun dipped below the horizon, Marina exhaled with the quiet certainty of someone who'd learned her worth the hardest way possible. If you're still watching this story, hit the like button, drop a comment about your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for more real stories like this. You never know, your story might be next.